Hey there, and welcome to Animal Donut. My name is Jeff Luke. I am a photographer and also the author of Stock Market Intelligence, which is available on Amazon, and Crush It with ETFs, which will be available on Amazon on January 7th, 2022. I'm going to show you a very simple device that will represent an investment portfolio, a concentrated, focused one. And you can see this ring is just made up of 5 different segments, and each one of them is going to represent a different stock in the portfolio. And you can compare this and compare it to all of these kernels of popcorn you see in this container. There must be 1,000, maybe 2,000 different kernels of popcorn. And you would never be able to understand any one of these kernels very well if it represented a company in your stock portfolio. But if you just stick to 5, you do have a chance to get to know each one of these very well. Now, there are some problems investing in a concentrated portfolio. If you don't have the patience to invest for the long term, 1 or 2 or 3 of your stocks might not do well, and you could severely underperform the market for a little while or for a long while. But if you understand the companies well and you have the courage to stick with your convictions, a portfolio like this can do really, really well over the long term. I'm just going to give you some statistics to back this up. Now, if you invest in the S&P 500 index fund, if you invested in it in the year 2000 and you just held it for 20 years, a $10,000 investment, a $10,000 investment would grow to be worth about $45,000, and that is a 7% rate of return. And that's what the stock market's delivered over the last 20 years on average. That takes into account the best years, but also some of the worst years. Now, if you did 3.5% better than that, if you did 10.5% return over those 20 years, instead of $45,000, you would have $90,000 in that account. So you could effectively double the amount of money that you get in a long period of time or in a short period of time if you are able to improve upon the results of the overall market. Now, not easy to do, it's easier to say, but in any case, I want to show you how I go about making the decisions into the 5 stocks that ultimately will create my focused portfolio. So now I'm going to tell you about the 5 stocks in my focused investment portfolio. And the one thing you should know is these are companies in industries that I understand well. So I went to college and I studied biology. That was my major, and I have a strong interest in human biology and health and in medicine. And so a couple of the companies that I invest in are in the sciences and life sciences and pharmaceutical industry. And then the other is one that I know because of my experience as a photographer. So what I want you to know about the whole gist of this is these are not 5 random stocks that I picked, but I've really focused in my stock selection on fields and in sectors where I have the ability to at least dive deep and have a grasp of what these companies do. So the first company is called Veeva Systems. And what Veeva does is they're the leading cloud software provider to the life sciences industry. So all of these drug companies, pharmaceuticals, biotechs, they do a lot of research on their drugs, and they need a place where they can store all of the research and trials and all the information for the drug trials in the cloud in a safe, secure way. And the storage has to be according to all the regulations for like the US FDA. Everything has to be done in a certain way. And so Veeva is really the best company when it comes to doing this work. And I've done a lot of reading about it, and I know enough about the leadership of the company that I felt really confident investing in Veeva. The second stock that I invest in is Adobe Systems. So they make the iconic Photoshop, Illustrator, and Premiere Pro. So anybody who works in content creation has a strong understanding of what Adobe is all about. I like the company because their tools are the best in class. There's really nobody that comes close to making image editing software, at least for the photography and the design community, there's no one else making anything quite as good. And I feel like Adobe is going to be around for a long time. And I also believe that their model, their subscription model, while it might be a relatively new model, I think it's here to stay, and it ensures that the company is going to be able to have the revenues going many years into the future. Now, the third company in the portfolio is called IQVIA, and they're also in the life sciences industry, and what they do is they're the leading CRO, and that stands for Contract Research Organization. And they help drug companies and pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, do these randomized trials, and they organize all the data, but they keep all the patient information so that they're anonymous. Nobody, can link their identity to the results. And so they have to provide this privacy and regulation. And then they also organize just, thousands and thousands of different clients. And they're able to keep all this information stored securely. And they're the leader as a CRO. And they recently merged with another company. They're the product of a merging of two companies. And the other company is a data and analytics for life sciences. So when it comes to managing all the information that all of these vaccine companies and pharmaceuticals come up with, and keeping all of the information private so that it abides by all the regulatory requirements, IQVIA is really the top in the class for this. And so that's a company that I believe has a nice wide moat around it and is going to be here to stay. The fourth company in the portfolio is NVDA, and they are the leading provider of discrete GPUs, graphics processing units. And these are used in everything that uses computing power to render something visual. So whether it's a PC used for gaming, or used for CAD design, or used for any kind of visual system where you need to take a lot of different data and render it into an image or a visualization, that's what NVIDIA does. And they've been branching out into lots of different other fields, for example, artificial intelligence, and autonomous driving. So anywhere where you need to take a lot of different cameras, for example, on a car, on an electric car, and take all the visual information and then bring it together so that it can help this car maneuver itself. That's what their GPUs are used for. NVIDIA is the leader. They're the best in the field. There are a lot of other companies that are great at doing what they do, but no one that's quite as good as NVIDIA. So that's why they make the fourth stock in the portfolio. The fifth stock in the portfolio is Thermo Fisher Scientific, and they are the leading provider of all kinds of products and services and manufacturing for the life sciences industry. They make all different kinds of analytical instruments like chromatography and mass spectrometry and all kinds of technical stuff. But when it comes to providing the life sciences clients with all kinds of systems for testing and for analyzing materials, they're the top in the field. So that gives you a good overview of these 5 stocks. I have not yet invested in any of them, but I plan to, and by the time you watch this video, I will probably have already invested in all 5 of these. The plan is to buy the stocks on New Year's Eve, the 31st December 2021, and then I will keep you updated, and we can follow this portfolio and see whether in fact it's obtained my objectives, which are to beat the S&P 500 or the total stock market, because you can invest in that easily and without any research, just buying the index fund. And so my goal with this portfolio is to outperform the index. And I think everybody would like to beat the market. Easier said than done. So in any case, now you know a bit about this focused portfolio. My plan is to hold these stocks for at least the next 3 to 5 years, and hopefully even longer than that. And during the process of this, I think the best part of this whole investment portfolio is that I'm going to learn something from it. So one of the things might be, if it doesn't work out and it does poorly, does worse than the overall stock market, I will have learned that it was better to just stick with the index fund, like the S&P 500. On the other hand, if I'm able to do better than the averages, then that will teach me something else. But in any case, it's an experiment. And if I knew the answer, if I knew how it would work out in advance, then it wouldn't be an experiment. One other thing to keep in mind is that we can transform speculation into investment by doing more than one. So if you have, for example, one slightly risky investment and you have another where it's also considered a speculation because you're not sure how it will work out, the best way to transform that into an investment, in my view, is to diversify a little bit. So rather than going all in on just one or two or three of my favorite stocks, I feel that by going into 5, they'll sort of balance each other out and some of them might make up for others. So that's my approach. Also, I think it's a big mistake to think that any kind of a speculation is a mistake just because you lose money at it. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's unwise if you don't put in the time to do the research to understand the companies. But you really can't control or predict what the result's going to be. I will continue to keep you updated on this portfolio. In the meantime, I hope that what I presented here will help you to think a little bit about the way that you study and organize your research so that you can make the best decisions you can when it comes to investing in stocks.